Do you want an AI system that books appointments and skyrockets your Google reviews automatically, even when you're busy running your business? Here's the crazy part about this automation I'm going to show you. This isn't some theoretical concept. This AI agent doesn't just book appointments, it actually has conversations with your customers. It identifies if they had a positive experience, and if they do, then it guides them to leave those 5-star reviews that we all know can make or break a business. And if you're thinking, this sounds too good to be true, or this must be incredibly expensive to set up, that is what I thought too, until I saw this being implemented in a business. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the entire blueprint as I will be building it step by step. And I'll show you each step, each node, each conversation happening in real time, where the AI will handle the customer response. It will deal with unhappy customers, all without damaging your reputation and without you having to be physically involved in the loop. In addition, you won't have to be chasing reviews. You won't be having to worry about missing appointments because the automation will do it all for you. So by the end of the video, you'll have everything you will need as a business owner to build the system for yourself and your clients. So with that said, let's get right into it. Over here, I have a few things open. I have a tool called Unipile, which we'll be going to use in order to send WhatsApp messages. I have my NA10, I have my Excalibur whiteboard, and I have cal.com. So let's just put everything together in a sort of big plan overview. So the way I'm thinking about this is that we'll have a few different layers to this. So the first layer will be the appointment booking. So this will involve someone going to cal.com, which is the calendar tool I'm going to be using. They book an appointment, we get a notification, and then we store information in, let's use Airtable as our CRM. So this will be the first automation. Then we'll have the appointment completed. And if you want it, technically you could also add, now that I think about it, for example, step 2 could be appointment reminder, right? So here we could have appointment reminder where we're checking Airtable, and if less than 24 hours from appointment, we send WhatsApp message. So that could also be something that we do right there. Then we have step 3, which is appointment completed. So in this case, what we're doing is we're sending WhatsApp message, asking for feedback, answering any questions. And if feedback is positive, then we ask for review. And the key here is that when we ask for review, we want the review to be already created for the person. We want to remove as much friction as possible from the end user. So here I'm going to say, if feedback equals positive, ask for review, or rather, if feedback equals positive, write review, or write personalized review, send it to user, ask them to fill in review. So those are the sort of key steps that we have right here. So let's go ahead and build this. I didn't really think about this before starting this video, but I think it would also be a very good, important part of the whole sort of puzzle when it comes to reminding people of the actual appointment. Because if we remind people of their appointment that is upcoming, there's a higher chance that they will actually show up. And what is important here is these 3 things right here, right? So we want that these are the trigger for the specific automation to kick off. So if someone books an appointment, this is what will happen. If someone, or if the reminder is coming, or if the appointment is coming soon, that will be the trigger to kick off this automation. If the appointment is completed, which will probably be a manual step, then we want this automation to kick off. So we want to keep in mind what the process is, what the trigger is, and what needs to happen as the automation kicks off. All right, sweet. Let's have a look at Calendly here, or rather cal.com. I went with Cal rather than Calendly because I'm on the free version of Calendly, and that doesn't allow you to have an API connection. And if you go to NA10 here and you type in Calendly and you choose any of these triggers and you try to connect a credential, you see this notice here, supported Calendly plans. The Calendly trigger node relies on Calendly webhooks. Calendly only offers access to webhooks in their paid plans. So just for that, I decided to go with cal.com. And when I looked at their documentation here, we have platform/webhooks. So we can get all webhooks, we can create a webhook, we can delete, we can get, delete, etc. So what I'm thinking is that we'll create a webhook, then we'll get the webhook to see that this is working, and then we'll be able to hopefully use that when a booking comes through. So that's the plan with this one. So let's start with that. We want to create a webhook, and this will only be done once, right? Once we create this webhook, it will be pretty much up and running for us to use. I'm going to copy the curl right here, and immediately I notice what I need. So we'll need a secret key right here, and then the payload will be a new event has been active. A new event has been active. Okay, and then we get these triggers right here. Okay, awesome. Let's test this out. So copy this, and I just need to look at how to get authenticated. So let's look at introduction here, authentication, cool. Three authentication methods: API, platform OAuth, managed user token. Okay, so here we go to settings under API keys. We should be able to create that, and then we'll be able to connect this to N8N. So let's close this. So cal.com. Here, let's go on booking created, because that is what we want. I need to create a new credential, and here I need an API key. So in my case, I'm going to go to settings, as we saw, API keys. Let's add an API key. Let's call this N8N. Expires in 7 days. That's fine. Save, copy, and let's see if that is what we need to connect. I'll paste that there. Hit save. That connected. Awesome. So now I should be able to create that webhook. So this I'll leave on the side for now, and let's do let's see, cal.com actions. Okay, there's no actions, so we'll need to do HTTP import curl, and we'll need to paste in that curl request so that we'll be able to authenticate with cal and then create a webhook. So here I already have my predefined credentials. I should have cal API, and I have that authentication that I just did now. So here we need a secret key, which we don't, because I'm authenticating right here. And here we can send that body. So here, these will be the different triggers. I mean, in my case, let's leave them all. Let's hit execute, and this should, okay, in an ideal world, just authenticate. But for some reason, this is still asking for an xcal secret key. So clearly that API key might not just be enough. So let's try send the header as it was right here. And here we need a secret key. API key or what? Could that be the same thing? Let's see. Execute. Okay, client ID not found. So clearly we need to specify our client ID right here. So let's see where we can find that. Create a webhook. So headers, we need that. Okay. And client ID. I'm assuming this would be our own account. So if I go to profile, let's see where we can find that. General client ID required. Post client ID. How do we find that? In general, could that be, oops, not that. Could that be that? cal.com/username. Let's test that out. So I'll just insert that without the curly brackets. Hit execute. No. Client with ID not found. Okay, so clearly that is not it. cal.com client ID. Create an OAuth client. I mean, this would give us a client ID here. I don't know if we actually need that though. Because then we'd have the authorization, potentially. Create an OAuth client. Let's copy this. Let's go back here. Let's duplicate this and let's import that curl. I'm going to leave everything as is. For authorization, I'm trying to use the predefined cal.com credential. Let's hit execute. Okay. So for some reason, this does not seem to be working as expected. So let's import that. Authorization. Could be that, I mean, here we're using a secret key or an API key. Because maybe that is, let's see here. So what I created in, I mean, this might be an easier way to just do it. Let's create a webhook here. Yeah. And rather than doing it through the API, now that I see this, let's just try and create this. And maybe it will be much easier to get this done. So let's trash that. I mean, it would be nice to use this, I guess, but since we can also use a webhook here, let's just use a production webhook there. Let's allow multiple HTTP methods. I'm going to turn this on, and let's see if I add a webhook here. Enabled, we can leave everything as is. How long after the user don't show up? On call video meeting. Okay, that's fine. We can add a secret here. Okay, and there was the ability to ping that as well. So that's showing to 100, which is generally a good thing. And here we should now get a request that should have come through. So that did come through. So I think we'll just use this as an example of what this would look like. So here, yeah, let's run with this. We have a webhook that should trigger when any of these events happen in cal.com. One of which is a booking created. So let's test that out next. I'm going to hit cancel. I'm going to go to my event. I'm going to grab the link and I'm going to make a booking. So we'll be able to see whether we get a new execution coming through right here. So let's choose that. Let's choose that. Let's say this is a quick meeting to see if we can help each other. Hit confirm. And meeting is scheduled. And let's see if that will actually come through. Okay, something came through there. And let's see if we got that information. So we got a bunch of data. It's a 30-minute meeting. It's there. Cool. Nice. So we got the information. What is the meeting about? We got the email address. We got the name. Awesome. So let's hit save. Let's hit copy. Let's jump in and let's keep running with this. And this will be a post request. So let's just change this to post. So here I'm going to use a set so that I'll be able to just keep the information that I want. So let's see, payload, organizer. Okay, so this is attendee name, attendee email. What else? What is the meeting about? Additional guests. So I think that's all we need essentially. What we want to, probably ask for would be their mobile number. So let's just first change this to name, email, and notes. We also want their email. So we can create a record with this. So that would be this. So this is email. Let's also ask for their mobile number. So this would be keep relevant info. This will be new booking. And let's go back to, let's see, this right here, back to booking. And let's edit this to ask for a mobile number as well. Basics, URL, duration, availability limits, recurring. Let's see. So we'll need to questions. Great. Add a question. Is there mobile number? Yeah, phone number hidden. So let's turn that on and let's hit save. So now if I go back, let's see, event types, open this up. So close everything else. I should get asked for a mobile number. Great. So let's just put something there. My name is Jono. My email is that. This is Jono and I want to see what you can do. Let's see. Okay. So now we should get all that, which you already have. Plus we'll be able to map the mobile number as well. Let's see. And we have the mobile number there as well. So this is phone number. Awesome. So now we can pin this data. So let's actually unpin. Let's run this. And now we should have the name, the email, the notes, and the phone number. Cool. So now what we want to do is go to Airtable. And what I'm going to do is just create a new record so that we'll be able to save everything here in terms of the appointments, when it's going to happen, and all that stuff. And thinking about that, we also need to have that information right here. So we'll need to map that in a second as well. What I'm going to do is create an Airtable database off screen. And let's call this the Kevin's, let's say it's a barber shop, right? Barber shop appointments, just to give it some better context. And here, what we'll do is we'll add a record ID with a formula as the type, which is record ID. We'll add the customer first name, or customer name. Let's add their email. Let's add their phone number. Let's add notes, which can be a long text. And let's add the date, which is appointment date/time. And let's include the time. I think we can run with that database. So here, we just need to grab the information of when the meeting was booked. So here, we have the information right here. So 1300 to 1430. Is that what we chose here? 13 to 4, yeah. 1300 to, so this is 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Whereas here we're getting that in that specific time zone, which I think might be fine, but let's see, start time, end time. Let's do start time, end time. And what we could also do is, let's see here. So I don't remember if when I had set this up, if by default it was an hour and a half, which I think it is. Yeah. So it is always an hour and a half. Okay, cool. So let's run with that and let's just grab the start time. I don't really need the end time. And we're going to execute this. So we'll get the information here. All I want to confirm is that when I save this to Airtable by creating a record, that the right time and place, or the right time and date is set right here, right? Because that is going to be crucial. So here is going to write in the database called Kevin's Barbershop Appointments. The list is going to be table 1, and I can just map these right here. So name, email, notes, phone number, appointment start time. I'm going to typecast this just to see if we can reduce some errors. What is also going to be crucial is that I believe we need to remove the plus from there. So let's save this. Let's run this. And in our table, we got this 3 p.m. Great. So this is working as expected. There's the email, there's the phone number, there's the notes. All right, cool. Let's remove all that. And now we have this part right. This is done. So call.com, book an appointment, get notification, store information in our table. What I want to do is, one thing I didn't include here, is send customer confirmation. I think that would be cool. So let's just do that. All right, sweet. So now we are on Unipile, which is the tool that we'll be using to send WhatsApp messages. And there are a few things we need to do in order to make this work. So here I'm just going to revoke my N8N token. I'm going to generate one fresh so that we'll use this to send messages on WhatsApp. And this is the key information that we will need. So I'm just going to copy this right here and put it in my notepad so that I'll be able to access that later. When we are here, we need to do 3 things essentially. We need to list all accounts, which is just one thing we'll need to do once because this will give us our account ID. Then we'll need to start a new chat so that we get the chat ID of the person we need to speak with. And then we'll be able to send a message. So there are those 3 things that we will need to do. So let's do this step by step. In N8N, I'm just going to delete these as I was testing them. And just as a quick recap so far, we should have the information that the user has filled in and we should have created a record, right? So here we have this information here. We need to essentially save the chat ID of this phone number on WhatsApp according to Unipile, or according to WhatsApp, I guess. So here I'm going to add another column. I'm going to call it let's say a single line text. And let's call this chat ID. And this will be used exclusively for us to send WhatsApp information. So let's say and save this as WhatsApp chat ID. So I'm going to add an HTTP, and technically this should be out the loop because this would be for us to get Unipile account ID. So let's change that. And for this one, we could even not have it be there and then we just save the information somewhere. I guess technically we could also do it like that, but let me show you how to do this. And then, yeah, we don't even need to have this in N8N. So if we go to this link under accounts, list all accounts, we need to provide the header information right here, which is what we have from the API key that we generated. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it in here. We need to ensure that the base URL matches what we have right here. So in my case, it's API for 13467. So that matches as well. And then that is pretty much it. So I can hit try it. And this should give me this information right here. What I want is this account ID right here. So if I zoom in, this is the account ID that we will need to use. So I'll just store that in my notepad as well. Next, we'll need to start a new chat because this will give us the chat ID of that person. And this is what we're going to save right here so that each time we want to chat with that person, we will have that information right there, right? So for that to work, I'm going to again put in my header information here. So I'm going to grab the key once more. I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to again ensure this is API for 13467, which is what we got from here. And we now need to put in the account ID right here. So that is the account ID that I grabbed in the last in the last minute when I was grabbing that account ID. So now if oh yeah, and the final thing is I need to put in the WhatsApp number of the person I'm going to try and get the chat ID of, followed by @ and as.whatsapp.net. What is also important here is that the number does not need to have or shouldn't have any symbols at the beginning of it. So in this case, I'm just going to ensure that that is the case. If I copy this and go to N8N, I'm going to do HTTP request. I'm going to import the curl, hit import. And now since I have everything there, I can just remove that and insert the phone number. And what you will notice here is that I have that plus symbol right there, right? So we'll need to somehow remove this in one way, shape, or form. There are different ways how we could do it. I guess the easiest, maybe not the cleanest, but here we could have a quick OpenAI node. I could message a model and choose that from the list and just say your job is to return the user phone number without any symbols at the beginning, just the number. Do not output anything else. So I can just do that there. And then I'll just drag the phone number as the user message. So now if I were to run this should give me that right there as the content, which also means that here I can get WhatsApp chat ID by making a request to that endpoint and inserting the phone number right here. So here I can drag and drop that. And if I now run this should give me, okay, there's something wrong. Make sure the recipient ID is valid and the corresponding profile is not logged. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, obviously, because I put in the wrong number right here. So if I go here and now change the number to a real number, let's see, save, let's run this again. And here I'm grabbing the information from phone number actually. So obviously when you provide the right number, this wouldn't be an issue, but here we have payload, attendees, 0, and then phone number. So let me just change that in the right spot. Attendees, so let me see where that meshes. I think it might be that. Let's see, run, cool. And now I got the right number. So now if I were to run this again, this should create a new record. Let me refresh, cool. So I get the right record. It's also at a created time, so it's a bit more clear. And now this should give us the chat ID, which is that right there, which also means now I can duplicate this, and instead of create, I can do update. I can match that based on the record ID, which I can get from my creator record here by dragging and dropping that. And now I can just update that additional field, which we called, let's refresh that, WhatsApp chat ID, which is that right there. So now I can execute this, and now we'll get that inserted right there. Which also means that now we can send a message to the customer. So if we go to send a message in a chat, we now need the following information. We have the header information, which is the same as before. So let me just insert that. We have the base URL, which is 413467. So that should be fine. Then we need to provide the chat ID. So we'll just update that. And then this is the text that we'll send to the user. So let's say we're going to send the user, did you enjoy the cut you got at the barber shop? I think that's pretty much it in terms of what we need to send. So I'll copy this, go back to NA10, make another HTTP request, and I'll import the curl right there. One thing to think about is, so this is send WhatsApp message, right? In case this WhatsApp chat ID already exists, I don't really want to have to trigger it once more or have to each time grab it here. So what I could also do as a way to make this even better is say this is the table of appointments, right? This would be the table of, for example, chat IDs. And like that, we'd be able to have the record ID here, which is a formula, which is equals record ID. And here we'll have the phone number, and then we'll have the single line text, which is called chat ID. So before we attempt to get this, what we'll need to do is search in our chat ID to see if that phone number already exists, which by definition would mean we have the chat ID. If it exists, we don't need to retrieve it once more. We can just use it. If it doesn't exist, we'll retrieve it, we'll insert it here, and then we'll be able to know what that chat ID is without having to list it for each customer appointment that we get. So let's actually set it up like that. So here, I'm going to add a linked record, which will be chat ID. It can link to one record only, and it will link to the chat ID in that table. And that also means that here, when we're grabbing that information, let's first do a search. So instead of update, let's do a search. And in my chat ID, I'm going to search to see if the phone number exists. So Kevin's Barbershop, chat ID. Let's see if phone is equal to whatever the customer entered. And thinking about it, do you want to use the one with the plus or not? Probably not. So we just sanitize the data. So let's just use the information from there. And like so, we'll be able to, number one, search to see. So search to see if chat ID already exists. So in this case, it should say not found because that doesn't exist so far, right? So here, then we can say if there's nothing found. So if, let's say, json.id does not exist, so here we have it if it exists. So let's revert this to exists. So if this is true, we can just send a message to WhatsApp, right? But if it does not exist, then we'll need to find it. So then we'll do this. We'll create the record right here. And here, I mean, technically, this is the linked record, so that should be fine. We just need to, instead of update here, create the record. We'll create it in the chat ID table. And if we refresh this, let's just run this once more. Okay, we have something missing here. Okay, so here we'll need to grab this information, which is now updated. So we execute this. And now we should get that chat ID right there. So now we can create a record with that chat ID. We also need to provide the phone number here, right? Yeah. Chat ID, phone number. Because here we don't really want to link to appointments, I guess. Yeah, we want to associate that with phone. Yeah. So let's think about this. So we can delete that. Let's delete that. And we want to link to something in appointments, but let's link to phone. So that if I have a chat ID here, it can link to a phone. Let's see, phone, cool. So that links to that phone number. I think that makes sense. The appointments is the table there. So then we know that this person's phone number is connected to this chat ID. I think that makes sense. So let's refresh this. And here, I mean, this is called appointments, but what this needs to be is actually, I believe the record. Yeah, so this is the record ID of that. So if we create a new record here with that phone number, there's something wrong with the linked record. Because what I would like is that the chat ID is always associated with that phone number, right? I mean, technically, I think the issue is that this appointments right here. So this we can delete. And I guess we could use a phone number instead of a record ID here. So that would be associated with the user. So what if we change the primary field to phone here, which also means that here, let's see, if we delete this linked record, appointments, the chat ID is linked. I mean, it can link to multiple records, I guess. Yeah, and let's link it to a phone number. So now this would be linked. No, we can't really use, I think I'm confusing two different things. Because here we want to have, let's just remove the idea of linked records. Let's just remove this and switch back to record ID because I want to have this be its own thing. And all I want here, let's have this be unlinked. Let's just have chat ID. This will be chat ID and then phone number. So that's fine. Which also means that here we can search based on the phone number. So that's great. So if the phone number is found within chat IDs, we can send a message to the user because we have the chat ID. I mean, we'll just need to retrieve it, which we will from here. If it does not exist, we'll need to get it and then send a message. So let's duplicate that. Let's run this once more. So in this case, it doesn't exist. So we'll need to get it. We'll need to create a new record where we'll also need to store the phone number, which we can get. This needs to be refreshed. Which we can get from here. So now, this will store these two things. And then we'll be able to send a message where essentially, let's see, this will be the chat ID, which we just found. So we can just use that there. So that's the bottom route. So we can just send that. And just to ensure Airtable doesn't break the whole automation, let's just use this right here and insert that chat ID because Airtable does sometimes take a few seconds to update. So that's one thing. And here we have this send message. So in this case, if it already exists, so now if I run this again, it should find it. It should be true, I think. Yep. And now it would have this from the search, right? So now we would have the chat ID right here. So I'll just execute this and now we should send a message there, which I just got. Great. So here I got this. Did you enjoy the cut you got at the barber shop? So this is the first part right here. Now, The thing is that this is not going to be, did you enjoy that cut, right? This is going to be appointment confirmed. Looking forward to seeing you at, and I'll just use start time right here as an expression. And here we need to unpin that. What I also want to do, let's run it once more. What I want is to see what this will look like. I don't want to send it in that format. So here I'm just going to do dot, I believe it will be dot format. No, dot, what can we do with this? Let's see. Dot, it's coming up for some reason. Okay, to date time, dot format. And I believe if we put in F, yeah, something like that, yeah. But this is saying 1 p.m. But we know that this needs to be today time. So we need to also convert this to local maybe. And then dot format. And then F. Yeah, that works great. And obviously you can play around with this formatting as well if you wanted to make that look nicer. What I'm going to do is just copy this and just paste this in here. So now we get the same thing sent if the chat ID already exists. So this is if someone or when someone books an appointment. Now, what we want to do is have a mechanism so that when the appointment is finished, we are able to send the person a message asking them how the whole thing went. Here, I'm just going to sort based on the created field. Let's use the latest to earliest, so that's fine. So it's this one. I don't need this chat ID here, do I? And I guess when we could also update this. So when we create the record right here, we could then also update that. So we have the chat ID right here as well. It's not linked to this, but it might be handy, yeah, when we want to send the information. So let's do that. So let's do Airtable, let's do update, and all I want to do is update that field, which is the chat ID. We're going to use the same ID right there. So this will be record ID, which is this. And for the chat ID, if it already exists, let's put that in there. So this is if it already exists. So update chat ID in appointment table. And we'll just need to do something similar over here in case we just found this right now, right? So if that does not exist, so if we run down the route where this does not exist, let's execute that. And in this case, the chat ID will be this WhatsApp get chat ID. So we can also execute this. We get a new record here, and in a second we should can delete that, try again, and now we get that there. Great. So this is working as expected. Now, this is the first part, right? What we want to do next is have a checkbox that says appointment finished. And what I want is that as soon as someone ticks that, we send the user a message asking them how their experience was. And for that to happen, we can do this in one of two ways. Either we have a paid Airtable account, we have an automation that as soon as this gets ticked, we send a message to a new webhook. Alternatively, we can have something that is checking to see whether this is ticked. In my case, on this account, I'm on a free version of Airtable, so I'll need to go with option 2. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use different grid views as well. So it would make it easier on an A10 side to keep things organized. So here I will have all records. I will have one which is appointments done. And this I wanted to show only the situations where appointments finished is ticked. So let's call this appointments finished. So this means that if this is not ticked, it's not showing here. Once it is ticked, it will show up in there. Which also means that I can have a schedule trigger in NA10 that runs, let's say, every day, every 1 hour. And all this is doing is looking at our table. It's searching records within the table or the database called Kevin's Barbershop. And specifically, it's looking at appointments and it's looking at the view called appointments finished. So if I execute this, I should get that one record. When there are appointments in that view, we know we need to send them a message asking them how their experience was, right? If we look back here, we need to also factor this in. So we can do this. Okay, let's circle back to this. So here we want to send a WhatsApp message asking for feedback and answering any questions. So let's just do that. Let's go back to an A10 and let's just send a message right here. And for this one, I'm going to use the chat ID, which we should now have as part of our record. And I'm going to say, how was your appointment? I'm going to use the customer name here. So if I were to have a look at this one here, appointments finished, we have John over here. And before I test this, what I'm going to do is just grab the update and let's disable this. No, okay, before we send the message, let's just do this. So we get some data there. And what I want to do is based on that ID, I just want to remove the tick from appointment finished. So let's connect that. Let's activate sending the message. Over here, I need to update the reference to search records. So now it's not JSON, but it's going to be search records.item.json. And now this will allow me to send a message asking how it was to this person. And then in my Airtable, just remove the tick right there. And again, this will happen as soon as this is ticked to be true and an hour has passed because we have the schedule trigger right here. So if we execute this, all that should happen. So I get the how was your appointment, and in Airtable, this has now disappeared because that has now been ticked. What might make sense is that we have like a single select called status. So we don't confuse everything as well, because we have the appointment upcoming, appointment completed. So let's start that by default. When we create a new record, we have it as upcoming. Then as soon as this is ticked, we have appointment completed as the status. So that over here, we also need to change that to appointment completed. I think that makes a bit more sense. So it's not just, it's a bit more clear, right? So this would now be appointment completed. Appointments finished. Yeah. So now we have this right here, right? So this is the sort of second automation that kicks in, and it kicks in when an appointment is completed. What we now want is to be listening for messages from people on WhatsApp to ensure that if those people message us back, so if our guy here messages us back, we want to see what is happening with the chat that we have. So here, I'm going to go back to Unipile, and for this one, I need to create a webhook. So here I'm going to go to webhook. I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to create a new webhook, messaging, give it a name on the new message. I'm going to hit continue. I'm going to paste in my webhook. So let's create a new one here, production. I believe it would be post, but let's just double check. And now let's go to executions. If I go back to Unipile, paste this in here, okay, create. So now if I send it was great, this should technically send us a webhook request right here. And it did. So it's 3:15 p.m. Great. And we got the information there. I'm going to copy to editor. I'm going to filter because I want to ensure that for the purposes of this automation, it's only from this number. So here I'm going to have sender ID, or let's say sender provider ID, must match this right here. So that if someone else sends me a message on WhatsApp, it's not going to run the automation there and then. And I'm going to have an AI agent here that is connected to OpenAI. And for this, I'm going to use a specific system message. So here I had a sort of system prompt that I wanted to make a bit more specific, and I'll share this with you in a second. But what we have here is a WhatsApp support agent for our barbershop, specializing in post-service follow-up interaction. We have the core workflow, we have the feedback response, we have the documentation requirements. So we'll update our table. We'll also have a do not contact in our table, which is going to be crucial. So here let's have do not contact, which is going to be a checkbox. And here let's also have a long text called feedback. I think let's see if there's anything else here. Yeah, I think that's good to go. So let me just go back here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to paste that in there. And I'm going to give my AI agent some tools specifically related to Airtable. We want it to be able to, let's say, search, and we want it to be able to update as well. So those are the two critical things right here. So this is update. When it comes to updating, this needs to be in our, let's see, Airtable, which is called that. The list is going to be appointments, and essentially we just need this to be based on the record ID. You can leave that up to the agent, and it will be able to update the do not contact and the feedback. In terms of reading, let's set this up so it's the same table. The list is appointments, and let's see, does it need access to read this information? I mean, notes. Yeah, maybe not. I think it might be a better idea to give it access to their messaging to be able to retrieve a chat. I think it makes more sense actually, so that it can retrieve whatever we had right there as we're doing the back and forth with the user. Let's actually use this. So I'm going to put in my token right here, paste that in there. Chat ID, we'll leave that up to the agent as well. So we'll need to figure out how to pass that along. And I think that's pretty much it. Retrieves a chat, retrieves the details. Actually, no, I need to list all messages from a chat, not retrieve a chat. Because what I want to pass is, yeah, how many messages are to be returned. Yeah, I think it's important. Let's say 5 in our case. Chat ID will need to pass that along. And then I think everything else is pretty much we can leave as is. So let's copy this. Go back to NA10. Let's do HTTP. And let's import that curl request. So over here, I just need to change that so it's from AI, right? Because we want to let the AI agent pass in the chat ID, the user's, let's say the user's chat ID. We get 5 messages, we have our key. I think that's pretty much it. So this is list 5 messages from user's chat. And what we then want to do at the end is be able to send a message back to the user, right? So just like we have here, I'm going to duplicate this and let's send the message to the user. So this will be the same chat ID. So we'll want to use the chat ID that we will get. Let's see if we get that information right here. I think we do. Yeah, chat ID. So thinking about it, we can also make this a bit more deterministic and not allow the agent to set that manually or automatically. We can just grab the information in terms of the chat ID ourselves, which I think makes more sense. So here I'm just going to use webhook.item.json, and now this will be the chat ID. So here I'll just be able to pass that along instead of leaving it up to the agent. And same thing when we are sending a message to the user. So here I can pass along that what I will need to let the agent do, or rather over here, I'll just need to have a variable in terms of the output of this agent, which I think might be json.content, but I might be wrong. So let's see here, json.content maybe, .message, not quite sure. Let's just test this out. So let's hit executions and let's say it was a great haircut. Well, let's see what happens. So here we got a message coming in, but we got an error. So no prompt specified. Okay. So here the user message should be the information we get from the webhook, which is, it was a great haircut. So let's save, let's try again, go back to executions. And over here we got something, which is just saying undefined. Okay. So this is one of the issues with Unipile. So there are 2 problems. Number 1 is that this was sending undefined. So here this should be different. And the second thing is that this sort of hit an infinite loop, where we're sending the same message. Here, this was grabbing the message and then sending it again and again and again, which is why you see this coming through, which is why I just stopped that there and then. So here we'll need to adjust for each of these situations. So let's see, let's go back to executions. Let's look at the latest one, which is the one that says undefined. So what was the, let's see. Okay, so I think that was great. We're just sending the wrong json.message.content there. Let's copy this to the editor. Yeah. So this was .output, not content.output. So that's fine. That's the first thing. One thing we need to do to avoid that infinite loop is just have a way to store, let's say, sent messages ID. And all this will have is just a simple column that will allow us to store the ID of the message that we just sent, so that when we get a message back, even though it's from our number or from the client's number, we don't keep responding back and forth because the automation thinks that the client messaged us back. So here, I'm going to go to Airtable, I'm going to create a record, I'm going to choose Kevin's Barbershop from my list, and then send messages ID. I'm going to drag and drop that right there. which also means that now if I duplicate this, I can add an additional step right here where I can search to see if that message ID actually already exists. Because here I can have a filter where I say if the message ID is found essentially. So if message ID is equal to the message ID that we get here, let's see where that is, message ID, then it means that it's the same message that triggered the automation and we should just not do anything. Over here, we probably should also add a simple memory. So let's give this some memory so that it will know it wouldn't necessarily have to keep making this API call. This would allow us to, if we open this up, to get much more, like we can get past interactions as well. The final thing here is that, going back to what we were saying here, searching for that message ID, we want to say if this is found. So in our case, it wasn't found, right? It's invalid. Okay, so there's something wrong because that needs to have quotes around it. But in our case, this was not found because this message ID does not exist. So if we execute this, we can say if there's no record ID, it means it's a user message, which is great. So if, let's see, does message ID exist? If it exists, we want to do nothing. If it doesn't, we want to progress. So if it exists, so not in our case right here. So if, let's put in, if json.id exists, it means that this was found here and we want to essentially do nothing. If it's not found, we want to progress. So I think that should fix it. So let's say it was a great haircut today. See, it shouldn't take that long. So there's an error here. No session ID found. Cool. So we need to fix that. Oh yeah, because we added the user, like we added the memory. So now we need to fix that. So here under simple memory, let's use the user's phone number as the session ID. So here we can just grab the, let's see that set, and yeah, let's use attendee name as the session ID. So I'll just change this to webhook.item.json.body. And let's update that as the key. Let's try again, and we'll say it was a great haircut. You got executions. Nice. Thank you so much for sharing. Who looked after you and what part of the haircut stood out most for you? So let's say Jane took care of me. The wash was amazing. Jane's amazing. I'm glad you enjoyed the wash. If a friend was considering a haircut here, would you recommend to them? What would you recommend to them? I'd tell them to come yesterday. I know, but they will understand my like the humor, but that's a great recommendation. Thanks for your experience. Here's a quick review. You could copy or edit if it helps. I had a fantastic haircut with Jane and Kevin's barbershop. The wash was amazing and made the whole experience really relaxing. I definitely recommend coming here for a great service and top-notch cut. If you'd like, I can share the Google review link to make it easy for you to leave this feedback online. Would you like that? Nice. So I don't know if we actually set that up if I search for Google review. Yeah, so I just need to insert the Google review link. Awesome. So if I just do that right here, go back to editor, and I search for Google review link. Yes, this should be, let's put in google.com with 3 O's. Why not? So I'll hit save and I would say, yes, that would be great. So let's see if it gives us the link to google.com. Feel free to paste the review, whatever feels natural. Thank you for helping us out. If you ever need a haircut, we're here for you. Awesome. Sweet. So what I would just want to check is, first of all, what's happening with the Airtable and whether this is getting updated, because I haven't thought about that in a sec. So let's just go back to that once this loads. Let's have a look at this. Okay, that doesn't seem to be updating there. Cool. I mean, I guess we could get it to update. Let's see. Editor, update records in Airtable. So here, if we look at Airtable, always check Airtable first. If the client is marked as do not contact, okay. Use the, actually, yeah, so we need to give it access to be able to read. Yeah, so if we're using that, we need to have a bit of a think about it, I guess, because this will always output something. And if it will always output something, it will always send a message. Yeah, so potentially this would need to be updated a bit. So we can say, we can output some JSON and we say if it's do not contact, then we don't proceed. If it's contact, then we proceed. So that could be one thing. Over here, we also have the updating, but I think I'm just going to remove these, keep it simple for now. And that added the message ID there, great. So I'm just going to remove these for now. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So it is, I mean, those things could be added right there. Just to sort of bring this full circle, I just want to have this running. So if it's 24 hours and it's time to send a don't forget your appointment message. If we look at our table here, we have, let's see, appointment finished. What we could also have right here is, let's add a new view. And let's call this send 24-hour reminder, which also means that for that one, we'll need to have a, let's see, appointment date time. Let's insert to the right. Let's have a date and say this is 24 hours before. And then we just need to insert a checkbox that will be enabled if time to send 24-hour reminder. So that when we get the time here that matches a condition in relation to this, we'll just show it in this view right here. And this will only show when this is ticked. And for this one, so this will need to be a, I guess, a formula. Yeah, let's ask for the help of Claude here. How do I have this display a formula that is 24 hours before the appointment time in Airtable? Let's see. Probably it needs to be a formula. And we might not even need that checkbox, I guess. Formula, yeah. So let's go formula. Let's put that in there. And let's see if this gives us, I think it was the 16th. So this should be the 15th, if that actually works. Yeah, so this is, I mean, we're using the time. Yeah, because here we have the local format. I mean, I guess here it could be -22 if we wanted to, I guess. So it would be literally 24 hours before. And here, let's have this be a checkbox that gets enabled. And let's say, now, how do I enable this checkbox if the time now has passed the 24-hour time before appointment? Let's see if that is clear enough. So it's under formula. Yeah, so if now is more than 24 hours before, enable the checkbox, put it as 1, I guess. If not, put it as 0. That makes sense. So let's go here. Again, change this to a formula. Confirm. And now it's 0. Okay. Because what if we put this? I think there's a bit of an issue with the different time zones, I would say. What if we put this as, so let's say this is, yeah, as you can see, this now became 1. So if the appointment was tomorrow at 9:30, and this is then 1 day before at 9:30, this is now 1. So then it's time to send that message. So this is, so if we change this to instead 9:30 to be at 3 p.m., right? So now it's 3 p.m. So this should have passed. So this technically should be 1. Yeah, if I put it 1, that has now passed. So I do think it's that 24-hour sort of time zone thing. So I guess if we wanted to do this, yeah, let's add now. I guess we could say now plus 2 hours, minus 2 hours, whatever we said here. Now minus 2 hours. Can we do that? Let's see. Because of time zone differences, can we say now minus 2 hours? Let's try that. Is it plus 2 hours? I know these time zone differences do my head in. Okay, so this is now 1. So this is great. So what if we change this to 3 p.m. now? It should still be 1, which it is, great. If we change this to 4, it should be 0, great. If we change this to 3:30, it should be 1. Nice, because the time is 3:41. Okay, so I guess this is it, to account for the time zone differences. Cool, so now this should also be, we need to update, let's see if we need to update this. So this needs to be when time to send 24-hour time reminder is equal to 1, right? Because we have this equal to 1. So in this case, I mean, this wouldn't be appointment completed. But in this case, we can go back to NA10, not this one. And if we go here, we could have something similar to this, right? Because let's just, first of all, tidy up that. And then let's also add a few stickers. So this is appointment booked. This is, let's say, send appointment confirmation message. Let's have another one called send 24-hour reminder. And here, let's just search from the list, which is send 24-hour reminder. We're just going to send a message saying, hey, first name, quick reminder that your appointment is happening in 24 hours. See you soon. And update chat ID in appointment tree. I mean, here we're just changing this to appointment completed. Okay, so yeah, this is, okay, no. So this is actually a send appointment completed message. So yeah, I just switched the order. So technically it would be this and then send appointment completed message. Yeah, because we're sending the confirmation right here. Yeah. And then this would be the review system once someone responds back to that after appointment message. So this would be review system or ask for review. So this would be that. And I guess this can go next to this just for organizational sake. And this is the whole system, right? So we get a message that goes through when someone books an appointment through call.com. We send them a 24-hour message reminder. We send them a message as soon as the appointment finishes, just by us hitting the appointment completed right there. And then we ask for a review as soon as they respond back to that message. Having a few quick messages back and forth, and then sending them our Google review link so that they can paste in their review that they can also personalize. So that is what is happening in this automation. It was a bit of a long one, but I hope you found value in this. If you did, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss future videos. And also check out the links in the description for more ways how I can help you with your AI and automation needs. I'll speak to you soon.